A night beneath the stars. It was a warm summer evening in the heart of Tuscany, where the sun painted the sky in vibrant hues of orange, pink, and lavender as it slowly dipped below the horizon. The rolling vineyards stretched out as far as the eye could see, bathed in the soft, golden glow of twilight. Elena stood on the terrace of the villa, her arms lightly crossed, breathing in the sweet, earthy scent of lavender fields and ripening grapes that filled the air. This trip had been a dream of hers for as long as she could remember. Tuscany in the summer, with its romantic landscapes and peaceful countryside. Yet, as perfect as everything seemed, her mind was restless. She had needed a moment away from the lively dinner party inside the villa, a quiet place to think and reflect. Behind her, soft footsteps approached, and though she hadn't seen him yet, she knew exactly who it was. Matteo. His presence had been a quiet, steady force since they had arrived in Italy with their group of friends, though they hadn't spent much time alone together. His dark eyes always seemed to be watching her, not in a way that made her uncomfortable, but with a quiet curiosity, as if he were waiting for the right moment to speak. Elena, his voice came softly from behind her, low and familiar. You've been out here for a while. Is everything okay? She turned to face him, offering a small smile. Just needed a little air. It's so beautiful out here. Matteo stepped closer, nodding as his gaze shifted toward the sprawling vineyards that glowed in the fading light. It is beautiful, he said, his voice thoughtful. But you've been a little quiet tonight. I guess I have, she admitted, glancing back at the scene in front of her. There's just something about this place. It's like, I don't know, everything else fades away. It makes me think about what's really important. Matteo nodded, leaning on the stone railing next to her. I get that. It's easy to get lost in the busyness of life, but here, it's like time slows down. You can just be in the moment. Elena felt the truth in his words. She had been moving through life so fast, school, work, friends, always busy, always planning the next step. But here, in this quiet corner of the world, she felt a calmness she hadn't realized she needed. She stole a glance at Matteo, who was now gazing up at the sky as the first stars began to twinkle in the deepening blue. Do you ever feel like that? She asked suddenly, surprising herself with the question. Like you're so caught up in everything that you forget to just breathe? Matteo smiled, his expression soft. All the time, he admitted. But when I'm here in places like this, it reminds me to slow down, to appreciate the little things, like right now. He turned to her, his eyes meeting hers with a gentle intensity. This is one of those moments you don't forget. Elena felt her heart skip a beat at his words, her pulse quickening in a way she couldn't quite explain. She had always felt something around Matteo, something unspoken. He had a way of looking at her, of understanding her in ways that made her feel seen, truly seen. It was comforting and also a little terrifying. Maybe that's why I came out here, she said quietly. To be in the moment. To stop overthinking everything. Matteo chuckled softly, a sound that made her feel at ease. You? Overthinking? I never would have guessed. She laughed, nudging him lightly with her shoulder. Okay, maybe it's obvious. They stood in comfortable silence for a moment, the night air cooling as the stars continued to emerge overhead. The sky was a blanket of sparkling lights now, the kind of night sky that seemed almost too perfect to be real. Elena found herself relaxing more with each passing minute, the stress and overthinking melting away under the warmth of Matteo's presence. I'm glad you're here, she said quietly, surprising herself again with her own honesty. Matteo turned toward her, his expression serious, yet kind. I'm glad I'm here too, he said softly. Especially with you. A soft breeze drifted across the terrace, gently stirring the loose strands of Elena's hair. She tucked them behind her ear, suddenly feeling shy under the weight of his gaze. It wasn't that they hadn't spent time together before, but something felt different tonight. There was an unspoken energy between them, a connection she hadn't fully acknowledged until now. What are you thinking? Matteo asked after a moment, his voice pulling her from her thoughts. Elena hesitated, then smiled, deciding to speak honestly. I was thinking about how sometimes you meet people who just get you, even if you don't know them that well. It's like they see something in you that you didn't even realize was there. Mateo's eyes softened as he listened. I know exactly what you mean. They stood together, the space between them feeling both vast and close at the same time. The night seemed to wrap around them, the stars above casting a gentle glow over the terrace. Elena felt her heart flutter again, but this time she didn't shy away from it. She allowed herself to be in the moment, to let the peace of the night and the warmth of Mateo's presence wash over her. You know, Mateo said, his voice quiet but certain, I've always admired how you see the world. You have this way of finding beauty in everything, even when things are complicated. Elena's cheeks flushed at the compliment, but she smiled, grateful for his words. I think that's the first time anyone's ever said that to me. Well, it's true, Mateo said, his smile widening. I don't know if you realize it, but you bring a lot of light to the people around you. For a moment, she was speechless. It wasn't often that people saw her that way. Most only noticed the surface, the girl who was always busy or focused. But Mateo somehow saw more. And that made her heart swell with an emotion she hadn't quite felt before. Thank you, she whispered, her voice barely audible over the gentle rustling of the trees. Mateo's eyes softened, and he took a step closer, closing the space between them. I mean it, Elena. The air seemed to shift between them, and Elena felt a quiet excitement building in her chest. They had shared moments before, quiet conversations and laughter, but this felt different. There was something deeper here, something she hadn't expected, but had somehow been waiting for all along. Elena looked up at the sky, her heart lighter than it had been in weeks. The stars twinkled brightly, as if they were watching over this moment, this simple yet profound connection between two people who had finally found each other in the midst of everything else. As they stood side by side, Elena knew that this night would stay with her, etched in her memory like the constellations above. There was no need for grand gestures or elaborate words. Sometimes, all it took was a quiet night under the stars, the right person beside you, and the understanding that this was exactly where you were meant to be. And in that moment, with the world falling away and only the night around them, Elena felt truly at peace. Thank you. And if you like the story, like the video, and don't forget to subscribe the channel. Stay tuned for the next part.